We look at our world and see a miracle of chance. We see a blue marble, shaped by billions of years of chaotic, unguided evolution. We see forests that grew wild, rivers that carved their own paths, and mountains born from the violent collision of tectonic plates. We tell ourselves that we are the natural product of a natural world. But look closer. Look past the beauty and into the structure. What if the chaos is an illusion? What if the landscape of Earth is not a wilderness, but a garden? A garden that has been landscaped, engineered, and replanted on a planetary scale. A growing number of researchers are asking a question that shatters our understanding of geological time. What if Earth was terraformed? What if the world we live in is not the original? What if we are walking on a construction site that was abandoned, or perhaps a restoration project that is merely in its latest phase? We assume we are the first, but the evidence suggests we might just be the latest version of a biosphere that has been rebooted, reseeded, and redesigned more times than we can count. Consider the forests. To the untrained eye, a forest is a symbol of wild, untamed nature. But botanists and foresters have long noted anomalies that don't fit the model of slow, natural growth. In vast regions of the northern hemisphere and deep within the Amazon basin, we find forests that are suspicious. They are too uniform. The spacing between the trees follows a near mathematical regularity, as if they were planted by a machine or an algorithm, rather than by the wind and birds. Furthermore, the soil depth in many of these ancient forests is inexplicably shallow. The roots of massive trees spread out horizontally, unable to penetrate deep into the earth. Why? Because in many places, just a few meters beneath the topsoil, there is a hard, unnatural layer, a layer of clay or bedrock that seems to have been scraped flat. It looks less like a natural geological formation and more like a foundation, an artificial floor upon which a new ecosystem was hastily hydroseeded. In the Amazon, we find terra preta, vast swaths of black, super-fertile soil that clearly did not form naturally. It is engineered soil, thousands of years old, rich in charcoal and pottery shards. It suggests that the entire lungs of the world might actually be an overgrown post-apocalyptic farm, a biological machine restarted by survivors or caretakers after a previous collapse. We assume we are the first, but the evidence suggests we might just be the latest version of a biosphere that has been reseeded, redesigned more times than we can count. Then look at the mountains. We are taught that mountains are the jagged, broken teeth of the earth, pushed up by the slow grind of continents. And many are. But scattered across the globe, from the Philippines to the Balkans, are the others, the perfect mounds. Hills that are flawlessly spherical or conical, lacking the random erosion patterns of natural rock. Geology calls them anomalies, but looking at them from a satellite perspective, a different pattern emerges. They look like structures. They look like the fossilized remains of colossal domes. Imagine a planetary climate control system, gigantic arcology-sized atmospheric scrubbers or biodomes built to sustain life during a period when the Earth's atmosphere was toxic or thin. Over millions of years, the metal casings rusted away, the glass shattered, and the machinery stopped. Dust and dirt accumulated over the skeletons, eventually turning them into the Chocolate Hills or the Bosnian pyramids we see today. We are hiking over the ruins of a planetary HVAC system, mistaking the buried machinery for natural geography. The Earth didn't make these shapes. Intelligence did. The water systems of our planet offer an even more disturbing clue. Water, left to its own devices, follows the path of least resistance. It meanders, it curves, it creates oxbow lakes and chaotic deltas. Nature hates a straight line. Yet map out the great river systems of the world, and you will find sections that defy the physics of fluids. We see rivers that run straight as an arrow for hundreds of miles. We see tributaries that join the main flow at impossible 90-degree angles, a geometric rigidity that appears in canal systems, not in nature. In parts of Siberia and the Midwest, the river networks form grid-like patterns when viewed from high altitude. What if these are not rivers? What if they are a drainage system? If you were terraforming a planet after a great flood or a glaciation event, you would need to move water efficiently. You would dredge massive channels to stabilize the continents. Over thousands of years, silt would accumulate, vegetation would grow on the banks, and the artificial canal would disguise itself as a natural river. But the geometry remains. The plumbing of the previous cycle is still functioning beneath the mud. But perhaps the most compelling evidence for the restarted Earth theory lies in the ground itself, the geological column. We are told that the layers of the Earth represent a smooth, unbroken timeline of evolution. Simple life becomes complex life. Fish become amphibians. Reptiles become mammals. But that is not what the rocks actually show. The fossil record is not a smooth ramp. It is a series of abrupt jumps. The Cambrian explosion, for example, saw the sudden, inexplicable appearance of almost every major animal phylum in a geological blink of an eye. Darwin himself was terrified by this anomaly. There are no transitional forms. Life didn't evolve slowly. It appeared, fully formed and complex, out of nowhere.
This does not look like biology. It looks like software. Imagine a terraforming project. You deploy biosphere version 1.0. It runs for a few million years, gathering data, processing the atmosphere. Then it hits a limit. It becomes unstable. So, the architects initiates a purge, an extinction event, a reset. They wipe the hard drive. Then they upload biosphere version 2.0. New animals, new plants, optimized for the new conditions. The sudden disappearance of the dinosaurs and the immediate rise of mammals wasn't an accident. It was a system update. The previous build was archived, and the new patch was installed. We see these layers not as history, but as previous attempts, failed experiments, iterations of a project that is still ongoing. This leads us to the most humbling and frightening realization of all. If Earth is a terraformed environment, an engineered garden designed to cultivate intelligence, then we are not the owners. We are the crop. We have found artifacts that shouldn't exist. Hammers embedded in coal, dated to millions of years ago. Complex metallic spheres in Precambrian rock. Footprints of modern humans alongside dinosaurs. We call these out-of-place artifacts. But in the context of a restarted Earth, they are perfectly logical. They are the trash left behind by the previous tenants. If the cycle of 12,000 years is real, the cycle of cataclysms that seems to govern our planet, then it is likely that intelligent life has risen and fallen here dozens of times. Perhaps the gods of our myths, the ones who came from the sky to teach us agriculture and law, were not aliens. They were the custodial staff. They were the engineers checking in on the new batch, ensuring that version current was functioning within parameters. And what happens when the experiment reaches its conclusion? What happens when the biosphere becomes toxic? When the dominant species becomes too destructive? When the parameters are breached? the system resets. The climate change we fear, the shifting magnetic poles, the rising seismic activity, we view these as random threats. But a terraforming engineer would view them as the automated cleaning cycle initiating, the scrubbing of the petri dish before the next culture is introduced. We look at the perfectly round mountains, the grid-like rivers, and the planted forests, and we feel a sense of peace. We feel nature. But we should feel a sense of awe and trepidation, because we are living in a machine that was built long before us and will continue running long after we are gone. The Earth was terraformed. It was built. It was optimized. And we are simply the latest integration, a biological test run on an ancient recycling server. The question is not how we got here. The question is, do we meet the requirements to survive the next update? Or will we, like the versions before us, be buried in the clay, waiting to be discovered by the next species to call this planet home?